First of all, my name is Orrin Mahoney. I'm the mayor of Cupertino for this year. And it's my honor and privilege to welcome you all here on a beautiful spring day, and maybe the last beautiful spring day for a couple of days. So when somebody asked me earlier, why are we doing this in the, April 30th? And it's because Ralph said it was going to be done in April. That's why. My God, we did it. So, I feel like I'm kind of the opposite of President Obama right now. He gets elected and walks into probably the greatest economic crisis that we've had in the last 40 years, and all kinds of geopolitical crises and maybe a big medical crisis we'll see. And I'm the opposite of that. I happen to be the mayor this year when we have two great projects, this Mary Avenue Bridge and then the Stevens Creek Corridor renewal that's going to be open July 4th. And these are two major projects that got started way before I was on the council and are here through the dedication and hard work, and you'll hear about some of that later of the people that preceded me. So I'm lucky I get to kick it off, and let me introduce some of my fellow dignitaries so we can acknowledge them. So do it this way. From my fellow council members, first of all, Vice Mayor Chris Wang, City Council members Dolly Sandoval, Gilbert Wong, Mark Santoro, Sunnyvale. We got I think almost the whole Sunnyvale City Council here. First of all, Mayor Tony Spitaleri. You'll hear more from him in a while. Vice Mayor Chris Moylan, Dean Chu, John Howe, and did I miss anybody? No? Good. Representing our County Board of Supervisors, Scott Strickland, filling in for Liz Nis. Scott, are you down there? Okay. And from the Mission West Valley Community College District, we've got President Jack Lucas here. Jack? I think Sheriff Lori Smith is on her way. She's here? Oh, how did that happen?
There's a fine.
I heard you were stuck in traffic. Can that be? No. Okay, and then we have from Caltrans, Will Kempton, the director, and Bijan Sartipi, another director. And again, you're going to hear what a partnership this all is. I mean, this is not Cupertino's bridge at all. This is everyone's bridge, and everyone had a key part of this. And from the Bay Area Quality Management District, Avra Goldman, also a key player in getting funding for this. From the San Jose City Council, but also a VTA board member, Ash Kaura. Ash? And then from the Fremont Union High School District, given that this bridge drops right into one of our high schools here, we have from the Fremont Union High School Board, Nancy Newton and Barbara Nunes, both of them. And Phil Wilson. Bill Wilson. VTA Board? No? That's it. Okay, good. All right. Now that everybody's been introduced, we're going to go through a series of speakers that some are going to give you a little background and the importance of it, and then we're going to get on to the fun stuff of unveiling sculpture, cutting a ribbon, and then all going across the bridge, and it's going to be fun. So let me start with my fellow mayor from the city of Sunnyvale, Tony Spitaleri, if you'd like to come up, Tony.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and what a great day it is. I remember last year standing out here with Mayor Sally Sandoval, and it was raining, cold, and we were shaking, and we couldn't wait to dig the first ditch and get out of here. But today we're happy to be here. I and my fellow council members are happy to have been able to assist in funding this bridge that joins our two cities. This bridge provides another important link in the regional bicycle system, providing a safe path over Interstate 280. Two other bridges, one crossing US 101 and another crossing State Route 237, were opened in Sunnyvale just a week ago. In just 10 days, 3 bridges have opened for bicycle transportation. The two biggest The two Borregas Avenue bridges provide easy bicycle access to Sunnyvale, Moffett Park business area, as well as improving access to VTA light rail and Caltrans. As this new Mary Avenue Bridge opens to the public, it, along with Sunnyvale new bridges, makes bicycle commuting a much more reasonable approach for more people. Once bridges were thought as a simple means to allow cars to travel over obstacles. But these new bridges reflect the importance and value of our two city councils and our residents placed on alternative forms of transportation and the benefits they will bring to us all. To Cupertino Mayor Orrin Mahoney, Vice Mayor Chris Wang, and your city council, congratulations on the completion and opening of this beautiful bridge.
Thanks a lot, Tony. Appreciate that. Dolly, you were here from the beginning and are still here at the end, and I'm sure you're glad to see this day come. Tell us a little bit about it.
Great, thank you. First of all, thank all of you for coming to our great Mary Avenue Bicycle Pedestrian Bridge opening. As the chair of the VTA Board of Directors and a Cupertino Council member, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you here today. Particularly since today is, as mentioned earlier, a much nicer day than the rain we encountered when we broke ground here. I'd like to do a couple more introductions. One is the VTA General Manager, Michael Burns, is here in the audience. And Jim Lawson, who also works at VTA in Government Relations. We couldn't have got this project funded without some federal help, and Ashley Roybal is here on behalf of Congressman Mike Honda. And Leslie Bullock from Assemblymember Paul Fong's office has joined us too. I'd like to begin my comments by thanking all of the first and early activists who helped create the idea of a bike bridge. Joe Walton, Don Burnett, Ann Ing, David Stallman, and David Simons are the ones that I know of. Give them a round of applause. These folks were in turn aided in their efforts to make this valley more friendly to bikers and walkers, and not to spend every last public transportation dollar on high-speed roadways. An interesting bit of history on this, if I may share with you, is the 1978 Santa Clara County Trail and Pathway Master Plan. In considering how to connect the points north and south of this valley, they have a note on the spot on this map that says, "Need connection. Alignment unknown at this time." Well, I'm glad we have our answer. This project started to get some traction in the 90s when I served on the Citizens Advisory Committee for VTA, because the staff of VTA was convinced that this was a viable project. After spending billions of dollars in this county on roadway improvements, visionary policy leaders started pushing to actually implement bicycle and pedestrian transportation alternatives, creating an organized network throughout our county. Some may recall that it was State Senator Byron Scher and his aide, Mike Potter, who got us the first $500,000 for this project. VTA contributed $10 million through its bicycle expenditure program. Mike, thank you as an Open Space Authority member, and thank you for being a staffer for the senator at that time. Then the voters were wise enough to pass measures A and B that assured us pedestrian and bicyclist transportation-oriented people that there'd be a dedicated funding stream for bike projects that help us complete necessary commute routes. As a council member, I gotta tell you, I was pretty discouraged when we opened those original concrete bids that stated that our funding, or the bid price, came in way above the funding we had. Thank goodness that Ralph Qualls and the engineers at HNTB quickly found a solution, which you see to be this beautiful steel-cabled signature structure before you. The VTA board and the city council gave its approval, and voila, pretty quick here you'll be able to walk across it both today and for years into the future. Projects such as this one and the 3 other bicycle and pedestrian bridge openings this year rely on collaborative and ingenious efforts of different levels of government, rely on that collaboration with the neighbors. And if you're a neighbor to this project, clap, raise your hand, stand up, do something. It relies on vision and ongoing determination and activism of enthusiasts, organizations like the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, and darn it, good engineering. But most of all, projects like this rely on the people paying the bills, which are the taxpayers here in Santa Clara County, so I thank you. The Mary Avenue Bicycle and Pedestrian Bridge is a project I'm extremely proud of, and thanks for joining us in this celebration today. Orrin?
So thanks a lot, Dolly. So Dolly already said that, you know, all of these projects start with some bottoms-up passion, and part of that passion, part of that initial group was Joe Walton, who was involved at the time and now is on the VTA Bicycle Pedestrian Commission. Yeah. Joe, you want to? Where?
I'm here. You got to recognize me by my pants.
Come on up. Tell us a little about how you got started with this.
All right. Well, Orrin suggested that I tell you how I got started with it, but I don't think you want to hear that story. That's just too tough, because the people that I worked with here were real visionaries, and I'm looking at Don Burnett and Ann Ing, and they said we could build a bridge, and I said, oh, you got to be kidding. But I am here today representing the VTA as the chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. But I'm also a Cupertinoite. We live here in Cupertino and have for 40 years. And as my attire might suggest, I am hooked on bicycling. I quit smoking 40 years ago and transferred the addiction to these this attire. But you know, we wouldn't be here today had it not been for our Mary Avenue neighbors. Way back in 1970, the latter part of 1970, Caltrans had the idea that they wanted to build a bridge to link up Sunnyvale with Cupertino. And in fact, the mounds that you see behind me, big hunks of dirt that were brought in, that project began. And the neighbors woke up and said, wait a minute, you mean we're going to have trucks and buses and cars coming through our quiet neighborhood? You got to be kidding. So the upshot of that was that the city council said, let's hold a community meeting. And that meeting was scheduled for the Flint Center. And on a dark and rainy night, we filled up the Flint Center to hear the Caltrans, I'm sorry, I want to punch Caltrans, but the Caltrans people give their reply to why build a bridge. And at the end of the meeting, I don't think there was anyone in support, not that the Caltrans had made a bad presentation, but just no one wanted a bridge. So our city council, in their wisdom, said, let's put that project on hold, or let's just never do it. So then our poor old bridge, our poor old ramps, I should say, sat growing weeds for the better part of 40 years, at least a good 20. And then as the VTA moved into providing funding for alternative transportation, and as Don Burnett's idea of making this into a bicycle pedestrian bridge began to take hold, it became a reality. But it also meant that we needed to go back to the Mary Avenue neighbors to get their support and input. And as a consequence of that, we did the city did what was called a feasibility study to understand how to build this bridge without bringing down the neighborhood. And that study was completed. There were a lot of folks who worked on that, but at the end of the second meeting, everyone said, it sounds like a good deal to us. So with that, we went forward, and now, 8 years later, we've got something that we're going to walk over today or pedal over on our bikes. So thank you very much for coming, and I would like you to give a nice round of applause to those Mary Avenue neighbors. Thanks very much.
Okay, so this is a partnership, and we certainly couldn't do it without the help from Caltrans when we did it the second time around as a pedestrian bridge. So I'd like to invite up Will Kempton, the Caltrans director, to come and tell us a little bit about Caltrans' role in this. Will?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of you may know that I have a history here in Santa Clara County, and this isn't the first time that Caltrans has had to make adjustments based on input from the citizens and the community in Cupertino. I remember something about a freeway over here called Route 85, and the original plan, some of you may remember if you were here back in the 1980s, was to elevate that freeway over Saratoga-Sunnyvale Road. And we did that because all of the floodplain data that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had provided for us showed that the drainage would require that elevation. Well, I went to a public community meeting here in Cupertino at the local high school, and there were about 900 people. Now, laptops weren't big time back then, but almost everybody in that room had a laptop, and you could hear all the clicking and buzzing and whirring going on as we were making our presentation about the fact that this freeway needed to go up and over Saratoga-Sunnyvale Road. And we said, it's because the water flows this way. Everybody said, absolutely not. The water flows the other way. You need to go back to the drawing board. We did. The community was right, and that freeway now goes under Saratoga-Sunnyvale Road. So keep it up, Cupertino, and keep it up, Sunnyvale, and you will make your voice heard. I really do want to recognize a few people. Bijan Sartipi, who is here. Michael Burns, good to see you, Michael, from VTA. Bijan is our district director in the Bay Area and was largely responsible for the partnership participation on the part of Caltrans. To show you how convinced we were about this project and how confident we were that it would be built, this is our local agency directory back in September of 2006. Now, you can't see it from where you're standing or sitting, but there is a little cube here that has a picture of this bridge on the front. An artist rendering, but it shows what was going to be built. This is a landmark structure. I will tell you, they in my notes they provided me, they said that this is the first pedestrian bicycle overcrossing over an interstate route in California. Well, I know that's not true, but I will tell you it's the best looking. This is an amazing structure. Now, if you've been up to Redding, you have heard of the Sundial Bridge. That's another bicycle pedestrian overcrossing over the Sacramento River. That bridge gets so many visitors a year because it's a unique structure. It's a cable bridge design as well, designed by a Spanish architect. This bridge is just as impressive, and you're going to get people driving for miles around to come and look at this structure. Very, very beautiful bridge. I just came today from a groundbreaking in Solano County at Interstate 80. Governor Schwarzenegger there broke ground on the first project funded by the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, the economic stimulus bill coming out of Washington. I just wanted the bicycle advocates to know that as part of that funding, there is $77 million that is going to go to bicycle projects around the state of California. And for those of you that know how short we are in funding for bicycle projects, that's great news. We are committed to alternative transportation. Caltrans as an organization doesn't just talk the talk, we walk the walk. Our headquarters office building in Sacramento last May was the only company, agency, organization in the Sacramento region that rode 1 million miles during the Bike to Work month of May. And we're going to break that record this year with a small contribution from the director. Now, Bike to Work Day is May 14th. I urge you all to bike to work. Let's make a difference. Let's show that by bicycling to work, we can have a significant impact on congestion across this state. So I encourage everybody to take part on Bike to Work Day, and you have a beautiful bridge here to try out as part of that. So congratulations on a beautiful structure. You're helping the state conserve resources. You're reducing our carbon footprint. and you're building a healthier community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So earlier I said that, this wasn't about me, it was about all the people that preceded me, and then I forgot to acknowledge them. So I'm going to do that now. We have former Mayor Sandy James here.
Yeah, that's right, Sandy,
With her own cheering gallery, okay. Former Mayor Don Burnett. And former Mayor Richard Lowenthal, all key active drivers for this, and then former Sunnyvale City Council woman, I don't know if she was the mayor, Julia Miller, I understand is here as well. So even though we all have good intentions and we raise the money, ultimately we are not the people that are going to build the bridge. We do not have the capability and skill to do that. That fell to an organization called HNTB. And I would like now to have Bob Stromsted come up, representing that organization. And thank you for all your hard work, and tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to give us an engineering timeline. Let's go back 2 years. It was May 2007, and the city had just concluded that a concrete bridge could not be built at this site because it was over budget. But with determination, the city decided we're going to look at another alternative. And they went out to New York City, where I live, and commissioned a study with Les Robertson and Associates and HNTB. And the study concluded that a cable-stayed steel bridge can be built at this location within the city's budget of $10 million. So shortly thereafter, Ralph Qualls called me, and he discussed with me his conversations with many of the leaders here behind me, Will Kempton, Bijan Sartipi, John Rista with the VTA, Dolly Sandoval, and with the construction manager, Tom Loomis of Swinnerton. I knew these people. I've worked with them over many years here in Silicon Valley, and I was so pleased to hear that they favored this project. They were supporting it. I met with my engineering team, and we sat down, and I said, you can be confident this group in Silicon Valley will get the money, and they'll get it approved. Now it's up to us to deliver. So we had a kickoff meeting, and Ralph came out there to New York and met with all my engineers. And he said, let me tell you my expectations. Make it look good at day and at night. Make Caltrans happy. Make the community happy. Make it meet my budget. And by the way, can you make it ready to advertise for bids in 6 weeks? And I said, Ralph, come on. You're an engineer. That takes 6 months. And he said, no, 6 weeks. Do you have any more questions? So the men and women from HNTB, they're over there. I want to recognize just a few of them. John Litziner, Steve Whitaker, Ted Zoli, Ray McCabe, Simone Treger, Greg DeMond. There's a whole bunch of them. They're from Kansas City, New York, Seattle, San Jose. Thank you very much for putting all the effort in. They had a lot to do in that 6 weeks. Analysis, creativity, preparing a biddable, constructible set of plans and specifications. Caltrans reviews had to happen, construction cost estimates, quality assurance. There were so many activities going on, but it all happened, and it all came together. I call it a perfect bridge kit. It came together piece by piece, and it was documented and delivered to the city. And then the day we were all waiting for, our hearts were beating. It was bid opening day. It was November 13, 2007. And I remember we were all connected. And when the news came in that all the bids came in under budget and under the engineer's estimate, we were overcome with joy, with excitement, and with emotion that this bridge will be built. The contract was then awarded to Golden State Bridge. Will Reams and his team over the next year, with great skill and innovation, constructed this 475-foot long bridge. Those 86-foot tall towers, they were constructed in 2 nights within 6 hours each night. And whenever they occupied a lane, they returned that lane in time for commuter traffic back to Caltrans. So let's hear it for Golden State Bridge. And I also want to recognize the workers. There were up to 50 tradespeople out on the project, from iron workers to masons to concrete workers to cable installers to painters to electricians to equipment operators to landscapers. And these folks, along with all those materials, the only material up there that's imported is that high-strength steel, which is from Germany. Everything else, all the labor, made in America, made for the residents of Santa Clara County, and hopefully visitors from around the world will enjoy it. Now, we all know nothing happens without a leader. We had the leader with the vision, with the courage and the commitment to make this project happen, and our team couldn't wait to work for him and just wanted to continue working for him. And we really appreciate the Director of Public Works, City of Cupertino, Ralph Qualls. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bob. And Mr. Mayor and members of the council of both cities, and ladies and gentlemen, this is a little overwhelming for me. It's been a long time coming. The nice thing about, by the way, I set the agenda today, and the nice thing about making myself the last speaker is that all the important things have already been said by everybody. And the other thing is that whatever I say, nobody's going to be able to rebut it when I'm done. We, as Bob said, the backstory behind this was nothing short of an amazing thing. And the fact that we did it, and I won't go back over it, but Bob described it very well about all the players and all the guys on HNTB and Caltrans and the VTA who everybody just put their shoulder to the wheel. I've never seen such a confluence of collaboration and goodwill and effort to make this project happen. Would have been possible without all those folks all working together. But I have to tell you, Bob was too modest. He was laying it all on me. The two of us together were sitting at this conference table in August to try and decide, are we going to do this? Now, we stuck our necks out on this thing, and it can now be told neither one of us probably had the authority to do what we did, but we decided, we know our company and our governing body, and this thing has to be done. And then we thought, well, what the heck? If this thing blows up in our face, little jail time builds character. So. But once we got over the shock of that announcement that Bob described I made, it just took off from there. And Bob described how quickly we turned this thing around, and all the guys at HNTB and Tom Loomis and our construction team. And the cherry on the cake, as Bob said, was getting Golden State Bridge. I've never worked with a contractor that was so effective, so efficient, so get to it, and safe. This project, not one injury, not one single injury. And let me tell you, yeah, that's a real feat. And so congratulations to Will Raines and Darren Lindsay, because let me tell you, working at night over an interstate highway is not for the faint of heart, I can tell you. Two last recognitions, and then I'll be done, which I know is good news to all of you. First of all, I can't, well, I've never acknowledged this, but there's one component of this without which none of this would have been possible. We wouldn't have even tried it. And that was in the last half of 2007, between September and November, the unwavering support of the city council at that time. And they're here, Dolly Sandoval, Chris Wang, Orrin Mahoney, and Richard Lowenthal. And the personal support and encouragement that I got from our city manager, my longtime friend and colleague, Dave Knapp. I can tell you, I was so absorbed with trying to get the task done that I didn't think about it at the time. But as I look back on the four of you, I thought to myself, they must have been standing there with their fingers crossed, hoping to God that I could pull this thing off. And they never gave up on us. So I've never formally acknowledged Chris, Dolly, Orrin, Richard, and Dave, how much that meant to me and how wonderful it was that you did that. So we sincerely appreciate the confidence that you all had. And last, there's always an unsung hero or two in these things, guys like Bob and me and Will are always out in front and talking about everything, and we kind of get into the public forums and put a face on it. But there's always somebody back there who actually sees that it gets done. And there is one man with whom that responsibility lay. I've worked with this guy for 25 years, And there's no question that he's one of the highest quality project managers that I've ever known. He's an architect, but he's a project manager, and that's Terry Green, our city architect. And Terry and I often, when we've been together 25 years, I've hired him 3 times in 3 different organizations, and we could never figure out which one of us had less sense. Me for hiring him 3 times, or him coming to work for me 3 times. And we decided that it was probably him. This is a fabulous day, and it's a long time coming. And while you recognize, as everyone said, this is an architectural icon, and some people have actually called it public art. It's that good. But it also makes a real big, as Dolly pointed to earlier, a real big, put your money where your mouth is, statement about this region's commitment to alternative transportation, particularly pedestrians and bicycles. And remember, in addition to the over 250,000 people who are going to use this bridge every year, don't forget there's 150,000 more that are going to drive under it on Interstate 280. And when they do, I hope they see all these people, all of you, walking and cycling across it to emphasize what it stands for. And to everyone for your support and genuine goodwill, on behalf of all of us who worked on it, thank you very much.
So thank you, Ralph. And no, you're not the last one. I'm the last one. So I'm gonna. No, I think there's another message that hopefully you took from all that you heard today, and that is your power out there. This started as a bottoms-up project, like many projects in Cupertino. This is not about us figuring out what's best for all the people in a community. This is about people in a community deciding what's best for them and having a drive and passion to then go ahead and make it happen and partner up with your elected representatives, your neighbors, anybody. So the people here are the people that started it. And it's kind of interesting. We had a meeting this morning, just coincidentally the same day as today, with representatives from the Union Pacific Railroad about the possibility of putting a bridge across the Union Pacific tracks to complete the Stevens Creek Trail over in the park over there. And guess who was there? Don Burnett, Ann Ing, some of the same people that were there at the beginning of this story. So hopefully a few years from now, I don't know if I'll still be on the council when it gets done over there, but we'll have the same people here telling the story of how they started that project. And basically we got agreement in principle that could happen. And that's really good because we never even were able to talk to anybody from Union Pacific before. We couldn't find out who to talk to. So it's just a start, but it is a start. So I want to conclude with my own description of Ralph, because we talked about how, this is a team project and everything, but I didn't have my fingers crossed. Ralph said we had our fingers crossed. I didn't have my fingers crossed because Ralph has such an amazing track record with all the projects that he's done for the city of Cupertino. Every single one of them has come in on time or early and under budget. This would not have happened without the competence, experience, credibility, professionalism, passion, and yes, the connections that only Ralph could bring to this project. So, Ralph, I'm going to turn it over to you to unveil the sculpture and do the ribbon cutting, but as I said in the State of the City, we would not be here without you. So, thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for those comments. I really appreciate it. The next item on our agenda is where we have a beautiful sculpture of birds that we set up and designed by our fine artist and architect, Tom Idala. And Tom, I see over on the side here. Would you mind stepping over here to where the sculpture is, Tom? I know, unaccustomed as you are to being in front of large crowds. So give Tom Idala, give him some encouragement, ladies and gentlemen. I have to tell you, the first design that Tom came up with, because we wanted all these birds that were indigenous to the area, was a series of egrets and other things that were on the rail of the bridge, the fence that you see out here, and they were all on the fence. It was absolutely gorgeous, and I think some of the council members will remember that first design, and we loved it. But then we went up to Canada, to the University of Ontario, to do the wind tunnel testing on the bridge. And the first wind tunnel testing was like 80 miles an hour. So the birds literally flew off the bridge and disappeared. They're still circling up in Ontario someplace, as far as we know. So we went to another concept, and I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor, and I'll go over and ask Tom to describe it to you. Tommy, do you want to say a few words about the sculpture quickly?
Thank you, Ralph. A few words, Ralph says. One of the things about the bridge I'd like to just say before I talk about the sculpture is that in my mind the bridge is the first flying machine because it takes place in air. And all of the activity and all of the construction and all of the expertise that goes into it just goes into holding people and things up in the air. And so when it came to do the sculptural theme, I thought that birds are nature's flying machine. And we have two types of birds. We have a bird that lives closer to ground and a bird that commandeers the sky with the bridge behind it. So it's all got to do about air and sky. And those are my few words.
Thank you. Thanks. Tom Idala, ladies and gentlemen. Another guy I've worked with for years, a terrific architect and artist. So let's unveil him. The first is a family of quail, indigenous to this area. And Drew, if you'll pull the cord. The next one is a red-shouldered hawk, which is also indigenous to this area. I think you'll agree that Tom's design and Larry's sculpture are absolutely beautiful, and as you go across the bridge, you'll have a chance to stop and look at them a little more closely. I will have to tell you that I got into a knockdown argument with Tommy and Larry, the sculptor, and told them they're going to have to move that hawk looking a little bit this way, because the way they placed it, it was getting ready to pick off one of these quail, and I didn't think the kids would like that very much. So congratulations to you, Tom, and to us for this fine sculpture. Thank you. I'd like to invite all of our council members and those on the dais to please join us over here behind the ribbon, and we will commence to open the bridge. And I'd also like to remind everybody, you've already been introduced before, but the people who led the charge to get this started are also going to be the ones to lead you across the bridge. Our former council members, Don Burnett, Richard Lowenthal, and former bicycle commissioners, Ann Ing, and the VTA commissioner, Joe Walton. These people are the first to start this thing, and they're going to be the first to get across it. Okay, so I'll move that when the time comes.
All right,
Orrin, why don't you announce?
We have a scissors, or?
I don't know what we got.
Karen?
Scissors.
We don't have a Karen?
Do we have scissors? Someone got a switchblade there?
I have a little baby scissors, but here, hold on.
Oh, no, we get scissors.
All right.
There we go. I got it. Oh, I got it. Okay.
I got it here.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, you got it.
No, well, wait, I'm going to do the last.
Okay.
Okay, we have
we go.
these
Ready to go?
gigantic ceremonial scissors. We have these gigantic ceremonial scissors that I just pulled out of my pocket. So here we go. Dedication of the Mary Avenue Bridge. 1, 2, and 3. Hey! Be prepared. Okay, and our initial riders. All right, everybody else, this is what you've been waiting for, not for the speeches. Come on across. Tony, you going to welcome to the Sunnyvale?
What was that?
Welcome to Sunnyvale.
Welcome to Sunnyvale.